Hello, everyone. Welcome to Us Lunar Reason with Christine Skinner. Hey, Christine, how are you?
I'm hot, I'm bothered, and I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we seem to manage to find something every time. We have these awful fires across Europe.
Exactly, yes.
And, you know, we have to, because we're astrologers, we've got to pin that on something, right?
Definitely,
You know, because
yes.
that's the way we're programmed.
Yes,
And, you know, I don't know that we can pin it on just one thing. I really don't,
probably
right?
not. Yeah, you're right.
And I also think because we should also be looking at solar behavior as well, right? That's
hmm
another factor in this. We're also Europe isn't the only place experiencing these fires. Canada has had terrible fires in
Yes,
recent weeks. So I don't know that I necessarily want to go down just the Mars route, or I don't know which planet I want to put this on. And the last thing I want to hear is somebody saying, "Oh, well, Jupiter's gone into a fire sign. That's it." No, no. I mean, really, you know, no. That's really not good enough, right? So I think that this is far, far more to do with climate change. And I think therefore we've got to look at the bigger picture. And we can't just pin it on a planet going through a sign or even the aspects. I think it's the entire picture. And the fact is that for many years now, we've been living with great chunks of time when all the planets are on one side of the sun. You know,
mhm,
everything's over there, right?
yeah,
So the sun starts to chuck out these enormous solar flares. Last week, there was a sunspot activity which was actually on the far side of the sun, but it was like
yeah.
a whole series of them. It looked like a whole ring, and then finally, when the sun turned around towards us, it was this huge thing which threw out two coronal mass ejections. Now,
Yes.
I think that's got to be to do with the distribution of the planets around it, and that in turn affects our weather, and then and I'm coming down very, very quickly into the smaller stuff, which is where the moon is. I was listening to a gentleman this morning who was talking about the fires in France, and he was saying, "Look, you know, we're okay at the moment, but we won't be if the wind changes direction."
Yeah.
So I started to think about this and think about, well, when is the wind going to change direction? The moon is on maximum declination today, not actually at the full moon because it's going to move back in.
Yeah.
So he's absolutely right to say today is a turning point, right? And if they get through these next few hours, I think maybe the worst might be over, right?
hmm
And then that leads us into thinking that maybe by Wednesday and that extraordinary full moon that contains Thor's hammer,
Yeah.
maybe that's the beginning of no pun intended, but forging something new out of this awful catastrophe.
hmm
But no, I mean, I know it's so easy to look, say the chart for the solar eclipse, and you see Mars on the world axis, conjunct Ceres, all right, okay,
Yeah.
fire. But if it was fire, would there not be fire in every country? You know, like we can't do it just like this. This isn't good enough. So I
Mhm.
think we have to think of this as more to do with climate change.
Of course, I think part of it we use astrology to forecast or examine what may or may not happen. But another way, like you say, the climate change, the reality. What have we done to the world, and we are going to experience that. Because also, I think we are in UK at this moment. We are fine, but some people already give a warning, right?
Yeah, I mean the thing is we're not fine, right? I mean
Mm,
we're anything but fine. They've got big fires up in Scotland, yeah.
yeah.
We could easily have them down here because
Oh yes.
you look at the grass in my garden is brown, right?
Yes.
I mean, it would take very, very little for fires to start anywhere now because
Yeah.
that's where we are. So I think really, just to go back to what you were saying there, you're absolutely right. We have not looked after the planet. That's a
Mm,
fact, right? But equally, the actual where the planets are themselves and where the sun is moving through the Milky Way and whatever, it's also those are changes beyond our control as well. So this is really quite a terrifying time. I'm really worried about this coming weekend. If you look at
yeah.
it from the heliocentric point of view, let's
hmm
just forget the moon and everything for a minute, push everything away. The angular relationship, particularly between Mercury and Jupiter this weekend, is such that we've had that before when there's been major earthquake. So it's not only 2 weeks ago, right, that we were looking at that earthquake, that 7.2 that was off the coast of Mexico. Now,
Yes.
thankfully, that didn't see massive loss of life, right? But the Earth was on the move. The Earth's always moving, but there was something extravagant. There was something much bigger. And I'm wondering if that's what we're also going to see in the next few weeks. And that's the terrifying thing, because when you look at whichever government, right, and this is
Yeah,
not a political thing, but
sure.
nobody in charge is actually able to cope. President Macron must be tearing his hair out today trying to work out how he's going to deal with all of this. The poor
Yeah,
guy in Spain is up against it, Our God,
yes.
everything is bigger than an individual now. And so these are really quite scary times.
Talking about when you say earlier, when you're talking about in the news, someone says if wind changed.
Yeah.
So from the astrological view, there are many planets changing direction at this moment, right? For example, Saturn.
Yes, and indeed. Listen, given that I didn't know what we were going to talk about, it's amazing how we've managed, right? But the great US of A is on its Saturn half return. Right?
Ah,
It has Saturn at 14 Libra, right? And there's Saturn stationing at 14 Aries.
yes.
You can see what it's up against, right? You can see how that fits in with the chart for the UK. Whichever one you want to use, you will still end up with 14 degrees of Aries Libra being important
Yeah.
in all of this. So you can see the changing relationship there, which is going to be very interesting to see how this week works out, because I fully expect Wednesday to be a day of some extraordinary significance.
Mhm.
Full moon,
Yes.
overreaction, probably to bad decisions taken today.
Mhm.
But, Thor's hammer is going to come in to play on Wednesday.
Talking about the source hammers, it's quite interesting because when you look at the pattern, when we just look at the pattern, and we will feel like, oh, if some beginner is familiar with yield, they will say, oh, they notice that that yield is two
Yeah,
quintuple, but the source hammer is like a 2 6 key
yeah,
quadrant. So the
it's
different,
different. It's
yeah,
quite different, because the base of it, right, is this square. In this instance, it's the square between Venus and Mars, right?
yeah,
Well, that would always bring its own tension, wouldn't it? I mean,
I want
but
it.
yeah, of course. I mean, that's what it is. It's relationship tension, right?
Mhm.
But we go through it many, many times. It doesn't mean everything's going to break apart, right?
Mm.
But it's a moment of needing to find different conciliation, different compromise. What's different on this occasion, right, is that both of those planets are 135 degrees away from, in fact, both Pluto and the Moon, right?
Yes.
And Pluto is opposing Jupiter. So we've got that's the backbone to this thing, which
Mhm.
I always talk about it as being the gambler's curse, right?
Oh,
So
yes, I
so
remember that.
so what we have presently, if I'm just talking about the UK, right, is there are all these plans, right, to make changes to this, that, and the next thing, move the number 10 to Manchester or whatever. But
Yeah.
we're going to have to borrow whatever decision is made. In order to do it, it is going to be costly, right?
Mm.
There's Jupiter opposing Pluto, right? We're going to have to borrow, right? Yeah. And so you break the bank. That's what Jupiter Pluto is about. It breaking the bank. And at the same time, this thing between Venus and Mars, not everybody's going to be happy with this, right? So it's going to look to some people as though they've taken a sledgehammer to the entire existing process and everything is going to fall apart. But you're going to have another lot of people who say, listen, a hammer is actually a very useful tool. From this, we can build something much better. So you can see that, again, Thor's hammer isn't always a bad thing. It's about creation of something. But it
Yeah.
does look, in the short term, it looks as though there's something breaking apart. I did something interesting because I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but I decided I would just have a look at the draconic thing of this, thinking
Ooh,
I'll just get
interesting.
particular alignment is bringing the Sun and Mercury to 4 degrees of Virgo, opposing Pluto at 4 Pisces. Now, the relevance of that is that the forthcoming eclipse, the lunar eclipse at the end of
Yeah.
August, is going to be at 4 or 5 degrees of Virgo.
Virgo. Yeah.
And the day before the actual eclipse, there's a Sun-Mercury conjunction at 4-5 of Virgo. So this is invisible writing on the wall for what's going to happen then, right? So really, whatever utterances are made today and whatever plans are made, right? The crisis then it's building into this crisis in a few weeks' time, right? So, but to come back to the practicalities of where we are now, and just thinking about the fires in Bordeaux, right? let's suppose they get those under control by Thor's hammer. Let's
Yeah.
suppose that as of Thor's hammer, they're starting then on the whole rebuild or restructuring, right? You can then see that by the lunar eclipse, the weaknesses in whatever's decided will be exposed, right? So they can't spend everything that they've got this week because they're going to need emergency money. So you would have to say to anybody, for example, if they're going on holiday this week, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to say, listen, be careful what you spend this week because you need to have something ready for that potential emergency. And if I'm wrong, that's great. That's terrific. I was wrong. That doesn't matter, right? But if I was right and that saved you a little bit of hassle, then it's worth making the forecast.
Definitely, definitely. I just remember because we mentioned about the nodal axis.
Yeah,
It's
right. Well,
changing side today. It's today, like the true node, the changing side today.
Yeah.
And one thing I know, you've been asked maybe 10,000 times about what Louise McWhite says about the North Node moving into Aquarius.
Yes. Now, there's a whole thing here, right?
Sorry about that.
No. Look, that lovely chart that she did, the business cycle chart,
Yes.
works fantastically well for the USA, right? But can we underline that? For
Yes.
the USA, right?
Mhm.
Okay. This is not a global thing. Every country monitors a little bit differently. Also, the low point of the cycle is when the node is at 0 Aquarius. So today it's gone to 29. So we're still a way to go before we get there. Right? But absolutely, the process is starting now. So on the way, as it happens this time, we're going to have to cross Jupiter, and the South Node are going to make conjunctions in November, February, and April.
Okay.
So I went back to have a look to see when they'd done that before. And it was 1791. Let me just see if I kept. No, sorry, 1795.
Okay.
1831, and 1962. And in 1795, right, the French paper currency lost its value and there was a bit of financial drama. I didn't really find anything for 1831, although there probably was something and it's not recorded, right? But in 1962, you had the Cuban crisis, but you also had the Kennedy stock market crash. Right? So what I think we can glean from this is Jupiter going over that South Node, right? There will be a test to the financial systems. Right? The greatest test is likely to come in April of next year because by that time the node will have moved quite a long way through Aquarius. And of course, it's true that when the USA gets a flu, we catch the cold later, right? So we'll be later on with this. What I think we're going to start to hear, Rod, is that as the node goes through Aquarius, I think we're going to hear more and more about the length of mortgages being extended.
Yes.
Because governments across the world are not going to want property markets to collapse. I mean, they're definitely, as you probably know already, the property prices are falling, but nobody wants them to fall the 20-30%, right? They want to try and keep a track. So a good way of holding it is to increase the length of the mortgage, right? So where the norm is what, 25-30 years, right? So they'll start pushing for 40, 50, or even the Japanese one of 100 years. Right?
Really?
So yeah, that's what I think we're going to hear over this next year, because that will be a means of trying to sustain a system which is actually top heavy, right? It's absolutely ridiculous, the price of some of these things. It makes no sense whatsoever, right? But that's what I think it is. We could also talk about something else, which is that which I find really interesting, the solar eclipse that we had way back in February. Remember?
Yes.
We talked
That
about
one is powerful.
the powerful one. And we said, that hits the astrological community. Normal, totally normal. It's part of the pattern of it, whatever. But the node now, it is now going to come to the degree of the February eclipse.
Yes.
And interestingly, it gets there for the UAC conference in Chicago.
Cool.
So, well, I don't know how cool this is going to be. I mean, I don't want to
Big
think
party, isn't it?
I don't want to think negatively about this, but I think we're actually really going to see, as we've done before, it's like a changing of the old guard, right? It's like, the torch has to be passed down.
Yes.
The the sad bit, if I can say, in this is that, and this, I hope this just doesn't make me sound old. It's just the way things are. And it's not peculiar to astrology, it's to everything. You get fewer and fewer people volunteering now, right? So you end up with just a few people carrying the weight of something, right? For which there is no tangible reward. Right? And that doesn't work. It really doesn't work, because after a while they get mad. You know, like who's going to want to spend 10 hours a week or more, right?
Yeah.
For what, right? So, you know, so I don't think it's going to be the easiest of transitions. I don't want to be Pollyanna about this. I think it's a good thing that the torch is carried on. But I also think that there needs to be some kind of dovetailing, because the people who are retired, for want of a better word, right, they've actually probably got time and experience they could give. And it would be a shame if all of that was lost.
Yeah, but also in another way, I'm sorry if I say something to
No.
kind of sounds like opposite side.
Yeah.
But I do have a weird feeling about the different generation.
Yeah.
They probably in favor different style of gathering around. I don't know.
Yes.
That could be, you know.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I don't think it's sorry, I'm sounding very Libra now, but I don't think it's a question of one side being right and the other side being wrong. I don't think it's that at all, right? But I think that there's a real danger, because Aquarius is either on or it's off, right? Yeah.
Yes.
You know, there's no halfway house, right? You have to think of it as being like an electric iron. The thing is either on or it's off, right? It doesn't just sit there doing, you know, I'll just play nice and stay warm for when you need me. That's not how it works, right?
Yeah.
But it should be the sign where we bring things together and you get the best of everything. And that's what I think we have to work at that. We have to be a lot better than we are.
Let me explain just very quickly, because remember when we start talking about the whole astrology community things, about the astrocartography things. So in the beginning, we are kind of shocking and also feel like but who are those people? We don't know them. So there is a gap between generation, and then when we trying to do something, and we realized those people are unfamiliar with those organizations.
Yes.
So, but now I can see we are working together, because I was involved, and then I also heard from those people, from those younger people, and they are willing to work together. So don't worry. I think they are coming up. They are coming up.
Well, I really want this to be right. I absolutely want this to be right. And I think, I mean, we discussed it before. I thought it was absolutely amazing that all of those signatures came in. And you're right. I mean, you had 10,000 signatures. But in the main, organizations have a roll call of about 1,500, right? Which is very small. So, you know, you've got more than 8,000 people probably out there who are not yet members, right? Now, why aren't they members, right? What did they not know, right? Did they not know you were there? Are you too expensive? Or don't they want to belong to you? Don't they want to have the back? You know, like, what is it?
It is crucial. I think you are 100% right. It is a crucial question. Every astrological organization's team has to think about it. Why they are not there? Why they are not with you? Why they are not in our team? That is a huge question, because we, like you say, the torch has to pass on.
Yes.
And what have we done?
We think we're doing the right offering, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Sometimes we have that blind spot. We are passionate about the things we are doing, so we didn't look from the other side and from those participants' view. That is correct. That is really important. So I think this North Node in the Aquarius with astrologers, with a community, astrological community, give us a new.
We have to use this 18 months. Right? This really has to be it. And we have to hope that both UAC and the AA conference, which back to back with it, that sort of intense time that's picking up that old February eclipse. You know what I mean? Right, that really was a special new moon where we turn another page, but we don't lose anybody in the process. I want to show you something. Right. Okay. Now I've got none. Now you see. Right. Okay. Now, can you see this?
Yes, it's an ECGR, right?
Right. And this one is 2009.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Now, the AA used to have one that was called transits. Both of them were much, much better than their big brothers, which were the proper journals and the color things. These were the ones that had the really good articles in. Yeah. We don't do anything like that anymore, right? Everything is on an e-news, right? But who wants to sit and read on a sodding screen again? You know, I mean, it just,
Exactly.
yeah.
Talk about that, because why I'm laughing so loud, because I was thinking to put the AOA's mundane things to the monthly newsletter, like your
Yeah.
full moon later. So I'm working on it. So that's why when you mentioned about the e-newsletter, I'm laughing, because I was just starting to work on it, prepare it.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to do it, can I give you a tip about this?
Oh,
And
yes,
that's because
I'm listening.
when my full moon letter started, it was much longer than it is now, right? Today, because people's attention span is so short, we're down to 500. Right? And preferably, and then sodding Gemini says, would you like me to summarize that in 100? You know, I mean, like, yeah, because the attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's
Look,
really,
I write it down.
yeah, because the temptation, Rod, especially if you're doing something like mundane, you've got,
Yeah.
how many countries are you going to cover? You know, you've got lots of things that you could do, right? But you're going to spend a lot of time writing, and nobody is going to be reading because it's too much. It's got to be nugget form, because
Okay.
especially today, nobody's got the time. That's why I'm saying I would like a quick newsletter, quick, you know, like,
Yeah.
you don't, it doesn't need to be fancy. I just need to, you know, pick up the facts.
Okay. Thank you for the tip. Thank you for the tip. Very, very helpful. If not, I think my e-newsletter will go to, like, from first floor to the ground floor, like that.
Well,
Eventually.
but seriously, Rod, I mean, because I work with the Astrology News Service.
Yeah.
People,
Yes.
and we've attracted some fantastic writing. I mean, that Anna Andrade is superb.
Oh yeah, I
mean,
know.
absolutely superb. Sue Keens. These are people
Yes.
whose writing is exquisite, right?
Yeah.
And it is awful to think that we're going to have to go back to them and say, listen, we really liked what you wrote, but can you shorten it? Because people aren't actually staying on, because we can track how many seconds they spend on the site.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we know that if you don't catch them in the first sentence, you're gone.
Okay.
You completely, if you don't catch them straight away, they're not reading to
Wow.
the end. And if you start saying, well, actually, like Thor's hammer was, that is square to that, and two sesquiquadrates, but they've gone.
They lost it.
No, they don't lost it, right? They just want to know, is Thor's hammer good or bad? That's what they want to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you say, well, actually, it's both. Oh, well, shit, right? I can't be bothered anymore, right? So it's Thor's hammer. Where is it going to hit? So you have to start to really think in very punchy things. This is really forcing us to be, I think it's forcing us to be better actually at what we do, but
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm,
Wow.
yeah. Anyway, I don't envy you this, so think twice
No,
before you do.
no, I'm not. But I think it is just trying something different for this mundane series. So tell us, well, where are you going next?
Oh, listen, I have something wonderful to tell you. Right?
Yeah, please.
This is too much. So to cut a very long story short, I had spoken to British Airways and I had my flight organized to go to Chicago. And I had slight flexibility about where I was going to come back from. I was going to go to Philadelphia, Boston,
Yeah.
New York. That was all part of, so I was going
Okay.
to make it into a bit of a grand trip. When my client rings me up and says, what are you doing after Chicago? So I said, well, I'm, right, one of these, right? Or all of these. I haven't quite decided yet. She said, no, forget all that. She said, you got to take a flight to Montreal.
Thank God.
Why would I be doing that? She said, because I'm picking you up there and we're driving to Prince Edward Island, which is 9 hours, by the way, right?
Okay.
So I am now post Chicago, I am now going to work, right, in Prince Edward Island, which is a whole thing. And I won't be that far away from where I went with Michael years ago to the Sabian Symbol Factory. So I will call in on those people as well, right? I will do
Oh,
that.
lovely.
So that's a nice kind of symmetry with the music and astrology and stuff.
Yeah.
And then after that, Rod, I don't know if I'm flying back from Montreal or if I'm going to Boston or New York. I don't know the answer to the question, right? I need to have the answer to the question fairly soon, but at the moment I've got a flexi ticket, so I know. And then I'll come back here, and then I'll go to Turkey to do the finance thing in October, right? And
Wow,
then I'll
going to be
come
fun.
back. Then I'll come back so I can do your Taiwan thing.
Yeah,
Get that
cool.
started off, right? So yes, so it's all falling into place. Thank you for asking.
And also, finally, when would be the next financial Sunday class?
Oh, good question. I know the answer to that. Because we started doing a nice little YouTube thing on a Sunday with
Yeah.
solar notes, right?
Okay, solar note.
Solar notes. They're only 10 minutes, right? But that just covers, what's happening on the sun and a few other little bits. But the next monthly one is the 30th of August, right?
Whoa.
So it's just after the lunar eclipse and the day before I fly to Chicago. So it's not terribly well thought out with, but anyway, it is what it is.
It is indeed.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So for our friend who are interested in the next financial class is on the 30th of August, and please write email to Julie.
That's right. Julie is looking after everything. I had a long chat with her this morning and we started planning the whole thing up until Christmas and what we were going to do about crypto. And yes, at which point I wanted to run screaming, but it all will be well. It's just, yes.
Think about the Thor's hammer.
Yeah, I am thinking about Thor's hammer and thinking, well, if you've got any planets that are picked up particularly by the Jupiter-Pluto thing, the four, let's call it 4 degrees, 4, 5,
Yep.
6. Oh, that's one thing I haven't said to you, which I was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jupiter going over the node.
Yes.
Right. Jupiter's in Leo now.
Yeah.
Going over the node of the USA chart, right? Which is at 6. Whenever that's happened before, right? Each time there's been the US Navy has had to be it becomes central to the news, right? The last couple of ones, September of 2022 and August of 2014, that both of them, their big aircraft carriers were involved because of the Iraq War. But I am concerned about what might happen with
Iran.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at you're by the way, I should congratulate you. The astrocartography bits you've done on Instagram have been brilliant. But if you look at the astrocartography for the lunar eclipse, Mars on the midheaven is just off the Strait of Hormuz, just off. Yeah.
Let's pray for world peace. Yeah.
Anyway, good to see you. And
yeah,
having
good to see
nothing
you
to talk about, we had lots.
Yeah. So thanks, Christine, and then for everyone, see you next month. Bye bye.
按赞、订阅、分享，谢谢大家观看到最后。